This week on Focus Asia. In care or in crisis? The treatment of young offenders in the Philippines. Multiple makeovers. Why so many South Korean women are opting for plastic surgery. And how not to inhale. We take a look at the Buteyko method of breathing.
Hello and welcome to Focus Asia. From our studios in Hong Kong, I'm Joe Kainz. We begin in the Philippines, a country with a strong legal framework governing the treatment of young offenders. According to Philippine and international law, minors should be dealt with differently from adults. When children are arrested, they're not supposed to be handcuffed, and they shouldn't be detained in the same cells as grown-ups. But as Rob McBride found out, what's happening in practice is very different from what's laid out in the statute books.
Crowded together in a cell that offers barely enough room to sit, child prisoners incarcerated with adult inmates. The grim reality in prisons across the Philippines. This jail in Manila, filmed just a few days earlier by a child pressure group pushing for change in an overburdened justice system where the rights of the child are routinely overlooked.
Every town is supposed to have a separate home or a care center for children in conflict with the law. Now that has not been done. Practically no town has fulfilled the law. And therefore the children are put in the local jail, and in many cases the crowding makes these children the sex toys of the adult criminals. And it's a very, very serious situation.
At the headquarters of this NGO, some of the young people caught on the wrong side of the law and the system, all with similar stories to tell. 15-year-old Vincent told us he'd been in and out of detention for years, at a center where cries from the cells went unanswered by the staff. His friend, 14-year-old Jimmy, claimed beatings and inadequate food were the norm there. This is the place they're talking about, the O-Care, a crisis center for street children and vagrants in Olongapo City.
I guess it has to be answered by the staff themselves. We were not there. I was not there, so I cannot really say that there is any physical abuse. I'm not a witness to that. I would not say that there was none, and I would not say that there was.
At Olongapo City Hall, you know from the slogans that this is a community with a difference. 3 hours drive from Manila, it is a city on a permanent campaign drive, and it has had to be in order to survive. On the edge of town, the former naval base of Subic Bay. When the US military pulled out of here, they took with them more than 40,000 jobs and much of the city's hope for the future. More than 10 years on, the city has gone a long way to attracting back investment. And it's done it believes, while looking after the welfare of all its citizens, old and young. The criticism has been especially painful for a city that prides itself on looking after its young people, providing a level of care despite everything that fate has thrown against it. Care which has been recognized nationally.
This one is, I think, the second.
And the trophy collection in the mayor's office is able to boast awards for several successive years.
We cared for them through health, through education. Not only that, we also give them sports program. That's why we have covered courts. We have put up playgrounds for young kids.
We have the playground equipment. We have also the stage.
On a tour of what the city has achieved with Jean Eclarino, its head of social welfare. A trip leading ultimately to O-Care itself, the facility at the center of the abuse allegations.
This is the living room of our residents.
All doors open to us and nothing to hide.
We have 20.
The classes for youngsters taken off the streets.
I think 7 are presently in school and attending their classes.
And staffed by caregivers who appear genuinely hurt by the allegations.
They said Oker is a jail. I would like to clarify that Oker is not a jail. This is a temporary shelter for our children. You know, this is, you know, it's heartening for us that we are the major agency protecting or giving care for our children, but still they're criticizing us. But we accept criticism as a challenge.
Come nightfall, and you see the same routine repeated at all of the barangay or neighborhood police stations around the city. Mobile units begin their wailing tour of the city's streets, telling the youngsters it's time to get indoors, for this is curfew. This city, one of many in the Philippines that imposes a curfew on its young, but one of the few actually enforcing it. Children found on the street after 9, either told to get inside or taken back to the local station where their parents are contacted and admonished to take better care of their children. It's all designed to reduce delinquency among the young. And at one bridge, a notorious hangout for children sniffing solvents, officers go in force. After a quick search, they find a teenager. He looks familiar, and we realize we know him, one of the youngsters we met earlier in the day at the Preda Center. Someone the social welfare officers tell us has been in and out of trouble for years and now detained once more for another attempt at rehabilitation.
When they are found loitering in the city after those hours that are on their curfew, they are being taken into the crisis center, the O-Care, and they're being processed.
But it was reports of mistreatment at the center that led child activists to investigate for themselves conditions there.
We found that the children were locked in cells, and these are terrible conditions. There's a concrete floor, there's no proper sleeping, there's filthy toilets full of excrement, there's no light, no air, the smell is overpowering, the food is served on the floor like animals, the children are kicked, they're beaten, they reported being abused and treated like animals, in other words.
The authorities say those conditions, it was never as bad as that. The conditions didn't exist.
Well, we can show it because we went in there and we've seen it. We have photographic evidence of the conditions of the children in that situation.
Pictures taken by the group seeming to bear out their claims.
And,
you won't find those conditions now. In one corner of the center, the cells remain, but the room now used as a store. Clearly criticism leading to change, but only for one center in one city considered more enlightened than most in the Philippines.
Well, I guess perhaps if the Philippines is just learning in things like this, like the child protection and things like that, Olongapo is also in the forefront of learning about it.
And for now, according to the pressure groups, for young Filipinos across the archipelago, falling foul of the law remains inherently perilous.
I think the general behavior of the people is a big problem. What I mean is that because they're not my children, I don't care. And when they commit petty crime, they will be beaten black and blue by the people on the street. When they get inside the precinct or the prison, they will be beaten by the inmates. And when they get arrested, they will be beaten by the policemen. I mean, I'm not saying everyone suffers the same fate, but on a general term, they suffer that.
Still to come, the pursuit of beauty in South Korea. Plastic surgery used to be the pursuit of just the rich and famous, but no longer. Demand for treatments from liposuction to laser surgery has ballooned around the world. The same is true in Asia, where many ordinary women and even men are opting for life-changing makeovers. Nowhere is the trend growing faster, perhaps, than in South Korea, where women are under more pressure than ever to go under the knife. Mark New reports from Seoul.
The quest for beauty, it seems, is never-ending. But in South Korea, some say the vision is skewed.
Whether they're in elementary school or if they're older people, I think they're pursuing Western ideals of beauty.
Here, beauty is increasingly synthetic.
I believe we are the highest, one of the highest nation in the world, I believe.
Of having cosmetic plastic surgery?
Yes, yes. Korean people really have a strong obsession for the beauty, I believe, yes.
Take a walk down a typical busy Seoul street, and chances are you'll find a plastic surgeon around every corner. To my left, Kim Se-young's plastic surgery. Below that, Dr. Kim's aesthetic clinic. Across the street to my right, Yu Chang-ha's plastic surgery. Behind me on my right, iBeauty plastic surgery. Within this 4 to 5 block radius, there is without a doubt more than 100 plastic surgery clinics. Inside, you'll find patients desperate to attain what they believe is society's vision of beauty. Miss Kong has visited 10 different hospitals hoping to get breast implants. All of them denied her request because it was too risky, since she has a blood disorder. But finally, the JLM Aesthetic Plastic Surgical Clinic said okay, as long as Miss Kong signed an agreement taking full responsibility for the outcome. She had no hesitation.
Now I think I'll be able to get a boyfriend. Also before, career-wise, I had no self-esteem and was unable to take pride in myself. Although I'm not 100% recovered yet, I think I'll be all right. So I think I made the right decision.
Miss Kong paid nearly $5,500 US for the implants, which is one of the most requested operations. Nose augmentations, jaw and facial contouring, and liposuction are other common cosmetic procedures. But by far the most popular is double eyelid surgery, which at this clinic costs just over $1,000 US. Dr. D.B. Young, the director of the clinic, says he gets just as much satisfaction as his patients.
I'm so happy when I see patients become more beautiful through plastic surgery. Because of my work, they can boost their self-esteem, which can lead to finding a lover and to making more money.
In the Western, when they are on the job, is their ability or capability to perform the job is very important. But in Korea, yes, now it's getting like that, but still we do have strong kind of belief that the woman should be beautiful. What do you call it? It's a flower on the job. So young ladies, when they apply for the job, they really have to have plastic surgery done first.
Stopping this trend is the mission of the organizers of the Anti-Miss Korea Festival. Their most recent event drew a crowd of nearly 1,000 people.
The title of the performance is Plastic Surgery Clones. It's as though women are being produced, like copies, through plastic surgery. We want to expose this trend through parody. We also want to warn against a physical, beauty-oriented mindset, and also expose the hazardous side effects.
Indeed, sometimes plastic surgery is hazardous to your health. Saline implants gone bad. Skin that was supposed to become smoother. Before and after. The Korea Consumer Protection Board says since April of 1998, it has received nearly 4,500 complaints dealing with plastic surgery. But most cases do not necessarily relate to malpractice or surgical complications.
The number one problem is there is a different view of beauty between doctors and patients. These cases are not easy to solve. Even though the doctor says he's sufficiently explained everything beforehand to patients about what the results might look like, Patients still say that if you would have fully explained it to me, I would not have had the operation in the first place.
Doctors need to explain in detail what is possible and what is impossible. I try to explain all the possibilities so the patient will have a complete understanding. Even after I've explained everything, there is still a possibility of a patient being unsatisfied with the result because they have illusions. Their expectations are too high.
20-year-old Miss Chang is already sold on getting wider eyes.
Even though it's taken some time to think it over, now I've just about made up my mind to have the surgery. I think 3 out of 10 young women my age have plastic surgery, and I think they feel better about themselves afterwards. Some of my friends even started plastic surgery in middle school, many others in high school.
cosmetic surgery의 원칙은, principle은
In principle, plastic surgery has to be done at least after 18 years of age, when growth has been completed. Sometimes there are mothers who bring high school, middle school, or even elementary school students just to satisfy their own wishes. I never operate on them. Instead, I very strongly blame the mothers for their excessive desires.
It's something Yumi understands well. When she was just barely out of high school, she also underwent the double eyelid procedure.
My mom pushed me to do that because my mom wanted me more beautiful and more bigger eyes. If I have choice and I have to do again, I will not do it again because I saw the scene they do the plastic surgery and the doctors treat people just like animal, like cutting meat or pork.
But for patients like Miss Kong, who risked her health for breast implants, no price is too high.
I've had such a bad complex for years, since my early 20s. I even couldn't go to the public bathroom to change or go swimming. I couldn't free myself from my complex, since as a woman, I had such small breasts. I couldn't even wear the right clothes to go with the appropriate season. Therefore, I made the decision to have the operation, even if it meant risking my life.
Beauty at any cost. It's an idea Canadian economist John Kenneth Galbraith touched on decades ago when he said there is no absolute standard of beauty. That precisely is what makes its pursuit so interesting.
Just ahead, the technique that could have breathtaking results. Many of Asia's cities are frequently covered in a blanket of pollution and smog. Some people reach for their face masks and inhalers to deal with the resulting asthma and allergies. But a few have been turning to an alternative breathing technique called Buteco, after the Russian physician who invented it more than 50 years ago. It's being touted as a drug-free way to cure over 200 ailments, from asthma to impotence. Shakuntala Santhiran has the story.
38-year-old Moina Srinivasan is asthmatic. She was first diagnosed with the chronic lung disease 5 years ago.
Anything that was a bit physically challenging, I would get breathless. And typically I would like to use my inhaler. The inhaler gives you shakiness of the limbs and generally you're not 100%. If there was an infection going around, I was quite sure to catch it.
But since she learnt Buteco's method of breathing 9 months ago, Moina says she's been so healthy she no longer needs medication.
I haven't used an inhaler or any kind of traditional medication for my condition since I took the workshop, which was in June. So that makes me drug-free now for about 9 months. And that makes me very happy because that was my goal.
This is the CPAP machine.
59-year-old Christopher Gold is another satisfied Buteco customer. He suffers from sleep apnea, a potentially life-threatening breathing disorder.
Sleep apnea is a bit like
snoring, but snoring too much. But with sleep apnea, it's even worse because you choke at the same time. You sort of, and you actually stop breathing. And this means that sleep is very broken and you're very tired the next day and you don't know why.
For the last 8 years, Chris has had to be force-fed air via this machine to help him breathe while he sleeps.
Put this on and try and go to sleep.
But he hasn't needed the machine since he learnt how to breathe the Buteyko way.
I can't say yet whether the results will be permanent, but I've been 1 to 2 months without using the machine, so certainly at present it's been very effective, and I'm very happy.
Russian respiratory doctor Konstantin Buteyko developed the method over 50 years ago, specifically to help people correct their breathing. According to Dr. Buteyko, 9 out of 10 people do not breathe correctly. You might think, as many people do, that you don't breathe deeply enough. But Buteyko's research indicates quite the opposite, that many people instead breathe too much. Over-breathing, according to Dr. Buteyko, is a product of our modern-day lives. The pollution in the air, bad diets, and stress in particular.
In ancient times, that's when people were stressed, they were about to engage or were engaging in fight and flight. Modern humans are sitting down when they get stressed. And sedentary stress, unfortunately, provokes the same kind of physiological and biochemical reactions in the body as the stress which prepares you for fight and flight. So your breathing increases, your heart rate increases, your hormones change. And if you're not in fight and flight, then your body becomes imbalanced. So what I want you to do is put your hand on your chest.
Jack Vidgen, who's been teaching Buteyko's method for over a decade, says this imbalance can be manifested in over 200 disorders, like asthma and sleep apnea, and also more unexpected conditions like diabetes, impotence, and even varicose veins.
The product of that can be manifested depending on your genetic predisposition. If you have a genetic predisposition for asthma, then it will be manifested as asthma. If you have a genetic predisposition for digestive disorders, it may be manifested that way. Okay, breathe softly, breathe softly.
Jack and other Buteyko practitioners believe shallow breathing through the nose is the key to alleviating these conditions.
As a person reduces their breathing to more normal levels, the balance of oxygen and CO2 in the body becomes more corrected, more appropriate, more optimum, which allows for effective oxygen delivery to the cells and allows for opening of air passages. In relation to asthma, there was like a 96% reduction in bronchodilator use across the board in the trial group within a few weeks and sustained to the end of 6 months.
These results have been consistent in 4 different trials in Australia, Scotland, and New Zealand. They've certainly excited some doctors. But many practitioners of mainstream medicine are more skeptical about the method.
To slow down your breathing, I think does have a role in alleviate the sensation of shortness of breath. But just controlling the breathing itself is not going to treat the underlying pathophysiology of asthma, which is airway inflammation causing narrowing of the airways.
Like many conventional physicians, Dr. Leung prescribes drugs to treat asthma. He refuses to consider Buteyko's method.
Without any proper randomized controlled trial between the conventional method and Buteyko breathing method, I think one cannot say for sure whether scientific value is there or isn't there. So until
Dr. Leung has so far declined Jack's invitations to try Buteyko breathing himself. Moina too was skeptical about the method before she tried it, but she's now sold on its benefits.
The results speak for themselves. I haven't used an inhaler, I haven't taken medication. I've recommended it to lots of friends. It's helped them as well.
The drug-free method is being used not just to treat conditions like asthma. A growing number of Buteyko enthusiasts are using the technique to lose weight. Athletes here in Hong Kong, Australia and Russia are also breathing shallow to improve their performance and stamina. Buteyko's method promises no miracles, You have to work to get results.
The success rate will depend entirely upon the person's need and willingness to practice. You're changing the biggest habit we have, and you can't expect to change that without some work.
Buteko's method may seem really simple, but practitioners caution against doing it without training. To convince skeptics to try the technique, Jack offers a money-back guarantee. He says out of over 5,000 people that he's taught, only 5 have asked for a refund. That's pretty good odds.
Out gently and hold.
And that's all for this edition of Focus Asia. Do email us with any comments you have about the show. And don't forget the website if you want to look at our archive of stories from around the region. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Joe Kainz. Goodbye.